Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. So today I have the Cold Steel AD-15. Now this was sent in by a supporter of the channel, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Brandon for sending this in and wanting to get it customized. So really quick, we'll put the specs up on screen and we'll get right into it. So this knife has a spear point blade made of S35 VN steel. You got dual thumb studs and then very aggressive jimping. So it really gets good contact with your thumb. It's got OD green G10 scales with a really nice milled pattern into it. So it gives a good grip to the knife. It's got a reversible non-deep carry pocket clip. So good for left-handed folks out there. A nice lanyard hole right here in the back. And then for the back spacer, it's integrated into the scorpion lock mechanism. And you have some jimping here on the back spacer. So you get some extra grip back there. And again, this scorpion lock is nicely milled and also makes it lightweight. And I believe it's coated in a very dark green. You do have a nice forward finger choil here, right here in the front. And then you have just your standard finger choil here. So ergonomically, awesome knife. The pocket clip is noticeable in the palm, but it's not annoying. So nothing's really poking you or making it uncomfortable. So again, just really good in hand. Now the only issue I really have with this knife is the exposure to the, I guess, the bottom end of the blade, and it rides on that scorpion lock, as you guys can see here. So right there, rides on it. Again, my only issue is if you end up dropping this blade and you ding up this section of the knife, I'm assuming that it will affect the smoothness. So again, that's my only issue with this knife. But other than that, it's really unique. The scorpion lock is very unique itself, and you can close it with one hand. You can flick it out with your thumb. It's a little difficult with the thumb, I found. It is doable. I just have to get it down. There we go. So I have to add a little wrist flick, but oddly enough, you can spidey flick this knife no problem. So I found that really interesting. You can slow roll it. And then to close it, you can actually use two hands. So lift up on that scorpion lock. You can see that, whoop. You can see here, you can lift up on it and then close it with another hand. Or you kind of have to find the sweet spot here, but you can lift up with one hand and then just kind of close it. So you definitely have to get used to the mechanism, since it's definitely unique and a little out there, but it does work and the strength is really good on this knife. But let's get into the changes I'll be doing. So we'll be changing the scales to the Mars Valley fat carbon. So this is just a really cool material. It's interesting to look at and definitely hypnotizing. But I think this will go really well with the dark green scorpion lock here. So that is the scales. And then for the knife itself, I'm going to be etching the blade, the liners, and then the pocket clip. And I'll be, not etching, but I'll be stone washing those just to give them a nice finish. And then I'll be adding the rock pattern texture to the new scales from the Mars Valley fat carbon, and then a rock pattern texture on the spine of the knife. So that's pretty much it on the changes. So let's take this thing apart and see what we got going on the inside. Alright, so here it is all taken apart. And I gotta say, that's a really simple setup. There's really only two big pins that hold this whole knife together. So I love the simplicity of that. That's awesome. And this is riding on bronze washers, which is, I thought this was on bearings, but that's insanely smooth for riding on washers. Now let's get into customizing it. Alright, so here it is all customized. Now we'll start with the scales. And I'm really happy with how these things turned out. Again, love fat carbon materials. They just look awesome. And for this one I did the scalp texture like I did on the Recon 1 XL. I'll leave a link up to that video. You guys can check that out if you guys haven't seen it already. But I did a very similar pattern. And what's really neat about this is that you get to see the layers and you also see that carbon fiber effect. So let's see how close I can get. But yeah, this is just really, really neat. And this looks really good in the sunlight. I'll see if I can get a video up of that in the sun. But super happy with it. Here's the other one. And again, does that really, really cool shifting thing in the light. And then I also etched and stone washed the liners. See if we can get this on camera. You get that nice little stone wash finish. Super happy with how the stone wash came out on pretty much everything that I etched, including the blade. Came out nice and dark. Really, really scratched up. Still got a little bit of oil on there, but really, really happy with how this thing turned out as well. And then I did that same pattern that I did on the scales. I did on the spine of the knife. So you can see there. Just turned out really good. Really simple touch. I made sure to use nail polish on the, basically the tang of the blade that rides on the lock bar, just so there's a nice smoothness to it. Gave it a fresh sharpen. So this thing is ready to go. And then I also did the pocket clip, so you guys can see here. And then it's very subtle, but I did that same pattern on the outer edge of the pocket clip. Just a little touch, just to go again with the flow of the knife. One more thing I wanted to mention before we put this together is that for the pocket clip side, I did have to keep it pretty flat in some areas so that the pocket clip sits nice and flush. And then where the bottom of the pocket clip sits, I had to leave a little flat spot. So I had to keep that stuff in mind. If you guys are customizing your own knives, just remember to do a little mock-up, and then I just traced around where to keep the flat spots. But just so you're not creating basically a gap where the pocket clip sits, and then it won't function. So keep that in mind. But now that we went through it, let's put it together and see what it looks like. Alright, so here it is all put together, and I think it looks really, really good. That's just my opinion, but let me know down below what you guys think. And that Mars Valley fat carbon is just something else. I wish you guys could see this in person because the camera is just not doing it justice, but here's the pocket clip side. Now the customer wanted this to be black, the aluminum scorpion lock back here. Unfortunately, I can't do that kind of stuff, so he might have to outsource somebody who specifically does aluminum. But since this green is so dark and the orange goes with it, I think you can barely pick up on it that it's green. But I think the knife just goes together very, very well since everything is etched and just goes with the carbon fiber in the scales. Now let's just make sure it functions. So it comes out no problem. The lockup is solid. Very little blade play. And let's see if we can close it. It's a little stiff. I put it more on the stiff side just so the customer can break it in like a brand new knife. And then I believe we can still spidey flick it. And for some reason I need more practice with it, but okay. So I can get it with the thumb. As long as you hold it a little bit further down so your hand or your palm doesn't get in the way of the scorpion lock. You can actually thumb flick it open. So the function is perfect, just like it was before. And there it is. Super happy with how this turned out. Can't wait for the customer to get it in hand and let me know what he thinks about it. Again, let me know down below what you guys think of how this thing turned out, and what do you guys think of the carbon fiber choice. But there is the Cold Steel AD-15. Appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for the support, and I will see you guys on the next one.